Okay, let's mix it up. Christie's speech last night about indicting Hillary Clinton, where he basically put her on trial and had a bloodthirsty crowd, a mob, declare her guilty, was one of the few times last night that the crowd really got excited. They absolutely loved it. But it turns out there's a few problems with that speech, and especially the messenger. Now, in case you don't remember, we want to catch you up. Here's a quick little section of that speech.
Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to present the facts to you. You, tonight, sitting as a jury of her peers, I'm going to present the case now on the facts against Hillary Rodham Clinton as a failure for ruining Libya and creating a nest for terrorist activity by ISIS. Answer me now. Is she guilty or not guilty? As an apologist for an Al-Qaeda affiliate in Nigeria, resulting in the capture of innocent young women. Is she guilty or not guilty? Is she guilty or not guilty? As an awful judge of the character of a dictator and butcher in the Middle East, is she guilty or not guilty? Is she guilty or not guilty?
And everybody wants an enthusiastic crowd, but you should care a little bit about what they're chanting and what they're chanting for. But I do like the image of him in particular standing up there just saying guilty over and over and over again. It has a certain Nixonian vibe to it that I really like. I know you found that to be ironic last night.
So, first of all, I found it to be vicious. I thought that was that kind of mob mentality I haven't seen in a long time. They've unleashed some things here at the Republican convention that'll be hard to put back in the bottle. So getting that mob, getting them riled up like that. They said Bernie Sanders hit her too hard. I mean, what an outrageous and ridiculous proposition now. Look at what they're doing. I mean, then, later in the show, we're going to have a story about somebody now, one of the Republican state leaders in New Hampshire saying she should be shot. Look, this is what they're going to. Lock her up, guilty, guilty, guilty. I mean, this is a frightening turn in American politics. And it's they complain about how Black Lives Matter instigates violence. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine if Black Lives Matter got up there and said, now what do you think about the cops in Minnesota? And they all chanted, guilty, right? How about the ones in Baton Rouge? Guilty, right? And they would come back and go, oh my God, inciting violence, right? Now, but they do it against Hillary Clinton and they think, yeah, rah, rah. And now, the irony. Chris Christie, one of his top aides, was just announced guilty last week. He pled guilty as one of the scandals that arose out of the original Bridgegate.
Felony counts of conspiracy. And there were multiple other people that had to resign because of their involvement in the incident with the bridge and also their attempts to hide the fact that they'd been involved. That led to multiple people's careers ending.
That particular guy pled guilty because they had him dead to rights. He was put in charge of transportation authority there, and he got United to give him a flight that was almost not used by almost anyone else, almost always empty, and because it went to a place near his vacation home in South Carolina. It was called the Chairman's Flight, named after him.
It wasn't even that close to the vacation home, by the way. It was a real waste for everybody.
Well, you got to drive in South Carolina to get anywhere. So now that is a case of political corruption at its core. And by the way, the CEO of United resigned over that. It was a scandal that affected the company as well. And so here's a guy who, that's one of his top lieutenants, did this kind of political corruption and said, raised his hand and said, I'm guilty. Yeah. And he comes out there and does that speech.
And that's the scandal that gets talked about the most. But of course, there are others. I mean, we've done videos about the fact that he used pieces of the Twin Towers as basically gifts that he would give away to people that he liked in office. There was the pillaging of pension funds, which of course, long term, is far more consequential than shutting down a couple lanes of the bridge, even though that was declared a threat to public safety at the time.
He used Hurricane Sandy as a way to hand out political gifts to people who had donated to his campaign, to companies. There was real estate deals that were done in places that had not been affected by Hurricane Sandy at all, but those were donors that were giving him money. And then parts of New Jersey were devastated by Hurricane Sandy, but their local mayors did not pay homage to Chris Christie, so he punished them by not giving them Hurricane Sandy funding that they absolutely needed. This guy is a scumbag. Okay, you know what Chris Christie is? Guilty. Who uses memorabilia from 9/11, actual, like, the rubble from 9/11 for political favors and to give to donors and other lieutenants of his? What a sick, demented guy. And he's the one leading the guilty charge against Hillary Clinton. But that right there is the epitome of the Republican Party. Hypocrisy and gross, barbaric calls out that their audience loves.
And
Like
in a figurative sense, using the rubble of 9/11 in politics, as they've done for the last 15 years anyway. So.
Yeah, and thankfully, while many people in the room liked all of those lines, there are some Republicans who, because they're opposed to Trump, were willing to speak out against this. So Jeff Flake, who said that he couldn't be at the convention because he had to mow his lawn, he tweeted, "Hillary Clinton now belongs in prison. Come on, we can make the case that she shouldn't be elected without jumping the shark." And that got over 1,000 retweets, which gives me a little bit of hope for the Republicans.
Yeah. Strange, that guy.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with Jeff Flake.
Yeah, something's wrong with Jeff. Yeah.
No, and look, credit where credit is due. That's a Republican
course, yeah.
that is being reasonable. I know that it has to do with this electoral politics in Arizona,
But,
and
but it should, in a way, he's been reasonable about this stuff and Trump for more than just his electoral
He's not up right now.